All right, everybody, welcome back. And we have today Mr. One and Only. You've probably heard him in the meetings there, the rider meeting in the morning, or you've met him upon your registration. Mr. Mike Maleckar, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Thanks for having me here, and thanks for doing this. It's appreciated.
Oh, well, no problem. I've been enjoying it so far. Hopefully, everybody else is enjoying it that's watching it. Um, this is going to be a little bit different than most coaches because you do go out and coach and stuff, but most of the time you're doing a lot of the infrastructure and administration side of things, but still want to do this kind of the same background. And I'm sure this is a pretty long story, but how did you get into riding motorcycles?
Wow, it is a long story. I guess if you want to go back far enough, I've been a piston head, as I like to tell people. I started taking internal combustion engines apart when I was 9 years old, and by the time I got to be about 13, I could get them back together again. So certainly, riding something that was motorized was just attracted to me from the very beginning. It really didn't matter how many wheels it had. My parents were not fond of motorcycles, and I probably could have forced the issue, but why would you do such a thing? So I actually didn't license my first street bike until 1975, and that was a function of a for the fun, right, of riding on two wheels, which is still fun to this day. Do the math. And it's at the time it was an extremely economical mode of transportation. I mean, there was a time in my life where the street bike was my only mode of transportation. By the way, if you live in Cleveland, trying to ride a street bike year round, particularly in the snow, does not work. How do I know? Right? The going is okay, the steering is moderate, and the stopping is non-existent. So at some point or another, you got to ride the bike. But anyway, in 1975, I licensed my first street bike. A friend of mine, we all thought we were pretty fast, right? Who doesn't? And a friend of mine decided that he wanted to test that. And in those days, the only way you could get onto a racetrack was to race. There were no track days, they didn't exist. So he got himself an RD 400, and we sat down and went through that thing and race prepped it. And as it turned out, in those days, I was the only person that anybody knew who had access to a truck. So guess who was pitting? Who was, pit crew. So I worked with him. I think the first year we went out would have been 78, maybe, someplace right around in there. And after I pitted for him for, I don't know, a year or something like that, and he ended up getting a second bike, he said, here, just take the RD out and go ahead and go race. So bought myself a set of used leathers, went out to the track and started racing. And there you go. I mean, that's pretty much it. I did take a hiatus. In 1984, I quit racing. Actually, I have not raced since 1984. And I just left. I walked away from the track. I was just tired of it. And then in, what was it, 2005, I think a friend of mine convinced me that now that there were such things as track days, right, that I should go out and try one. So there you go. And I've been on track ever since.
Yeah, that's interesting. I talked to Mark Blitnikoff, and I mean, he's you're older than he is, but still kind of same situation where track days kind of weren't a thing. It was kind of they were but weren't, and in your situation they weren't at all. But he kind of got into like racing is how he got into the track. What was your path into coaching? Because did you coach at Mid Ohio first?
Yes, Mid Ohio was the first place I coached. So I got back into track days, and actually ended up getting into them pretty heavily. I was doing quite a few a year and traveling quite a bit. And then, much to my delight, my wife decided that she wanted to start in the track days as well. And I'm trying to remember what year it was, but at some point, Monty and STT, back when Monty Lutz still owned STT, they had a humongous falling out with Michelle Truman, who at the time was the owner of Mid Ohio. So Monty pulled out, and one of the car side coaches, Mr. Brett Rubinick, stepped up and asked Michelle to give him the opportunity to run the motorcycle side. And that's when they brought it in house, and he started the performance track riding, which is what they do now. And I pulled up one day in the rig, and as I'm pulling in, pulling up, Brett is standing there, and he kind of flags me down, and I stop, and he rolls down the window. He just hands a jersey in through the window. So that's how I got into coaching. You know, I said, you're losing some revenue here, and he said, I don't care. Come on and coach for me. So that was literally the start. I was going to the track one day, and there was a jersey with my name on it. So
Interesting. Um, did you get a lot of fulfillment out of doing the coaching, doing that stuff versus like racing or just doing the track days yourself, or how did that kind of go for you?
oh, absolutely. I quit racing for a reason, right? I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, I like a bunch of people. I thought I was fast, and I figured out pretty quick that wasn't necessarily the case, right? I mean, I tell people I'm not fast, but I'm not slow. But I was stuck in anywhere from fifth to third. That's where I finished. Third, fifth, third, third through fifth in there someplace. Occasional second. I don't recall ever taking a first place in a sprint ever. I was involved in any number of first place in endurance racing. We were very, very successful in endurance racing, but it really just didn't do it for me. It really didn't. I have a very long background in teaching technical subjects to motivated adults. So when I guess the main reason that Brett would handed me the jersey is I was always helping people in the pits anyway. You know, I was helping them with setups. I was helping them with whatever. Be towing them around the track, and he figured, what the heck, he's doing it anyway. Let's put a jersey on him. The very first day I coached for him, he and I were standing next to each other, and we were watching the individual that was running the novice class go through whatever they had for a syllabus, which was basically, you know, kind of just random, whatever the person who was talking felt like talking about. And I turned to Brett and I said, Brett, I can do better than that. And he said, show me. So I did. I went home and I wrote a syllabus. Came back the next time, and from that point on, they used my syllabus, and for the most part, I was the guy running novice. But yeah, it's very fulfilling to me. I'd call it paying forward, but look at where I am in my riding career. There's not that much forward left. So maybe it's paying it back, but trying to help people have as much fun as possible, and to the extent possible, avoid the mistakes that so many of us make that can really turn a spectacular day into something very, very unpleasant, right? I mean, how do I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, been
So
there.
you did you coached with Mid Ohio for quite a while,
Yes.
and then
Yep.
you did you go after that? Was it with Lean?
Yes. When the current ownership purchased Nelson Ledges and started doing all the improvements, thank you so very much. I'm not prone to foul language, but quite honestly, even in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, when I started going out to Nelson's, that was the worst piece of shit track in the United States back then. And it only got worse over the years until current management came in. And Sam found out about it, and he got them to agree to let him come in. And he contacted me and with asking about certain things, and I offered to come in and coach for him. And he ended up taking me up on my offer, and seeing how I came preloaded with a novice syllabus, and some substantial years of experience, right? We just ended up clicking pretty well. Him running the front of the house and me basically running the novice coaching side of it.
And so, what made you after Sam decided to not keep going with it? What made you decide to keep things alive there and revive fast tracks and kind of take the helm?
I didn't. It was a matter of letting the whole thing disappear or do somebody had to do something, right? Somebody had to do something. Management had decided that they were going to bring or keep rather track days in house rather than go to whatever Into or Precision or whoever else would come in and run track days for them. They decided to keep it in house. They were looking for a name. They got Carol Stanley to agree to let them use the name Fast Tracks. That's another interesting story because, quite honestly, I don't believe, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't hers to give away, but that's not. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, their concept is that they were going to run it with their in-house people, and they were going to try and get some volunteers to take care of the management side of it. And I had very specifically told Sam when he announced that he was leaving and said, what do you want me to tell the folks at the track? I said, I will continue to do what I've been doing. I will, you want me to be the, in quotes, chief instructor and use my syllabus, and, I'll show up and do the volunteer stuff, and that's fine. But because I know what I know about track days, I really didn't want to have anything to do with actually running it. And Tim Kiggins, bless his soul, stood up and said, well, I'll run it. And then Tim, because he's a real live human being with real live family and a real live job, and, the man's got a career. And I think he realized very quickly that it wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to work. And we were getting very close on the beginning of the season. I think they published a schedule with the first day in late April, third week of April or something that first year, and we were in March. And there was nothing. I mean, you couldn't register, no phone numbers, there was nothing. And that's when I contacted the folks and said, okay, look, fine, I will do this under specific conditions. And they didn't think about it too awfully long, and off we went. So that's how I ended up where I am.
So, is there anything that you changed, or um, even I guess over the years Fast Track's been going, that you've changed as far as um, the way things are organized, or the way excuse me, the way
Absolutely.
the syllabus is, or anything like that? Or has it been pretty consistent since you've made the syllabus a long time ago?
No, the syllabus, as far as the novice syllabus is concerned, I think we're on version 7.2 right now. It's a changing beast as time goes on. The changes get smaller. Back to Tim Kiggins, when we do leapfrog, for example, you must have noticed we were having real issues in leapfrog with people going off the outside of turn one. And Tim said, maybe if we do leapfrog on the back straight instead of the front straight, we can alleviate that problem. Instead of having the very first thing that a novice rider sees without a coach in front of them is turn one coming up fast and furious. And by golly, it worked. It worked like a charm. So things like that change constantly. I try not to print out more than one per year. I put sticky notes on it. If you've ever seen it, it's covered with little notations. But yeah, it keeps changing, and I'm always open to suggestions. I guess and this goes beyond the novice syllabus to the entire operation. I'm more than happy to steal the best of whatever anybody in the industry has to offer, but ultimately, I want them to steal from us. I want everybody to look at us and say, "This is how you run a track day." That's the goal. So yeah, little changes as we go along. But one, I started this out when I started this out as fast tracks. Everything everything is designed based on being the end user of the product, right? Our clientele, and then I temper that against my experience being a provider and try and find that balance where everybody can just have the best time they can possibly have, including the coaches. It's important that the coaches have a good time.
Yeah, so some of that, the next question I was going to ask, you kind of answered some of it there, but there's certain things that you implement or try to do because you've obviously coached with other organizations, you've ridden with other organizations and whatnot, and you've seen, the good and the bad of all these different organizations. From could be from a customer perspective or from a coach perspective or whatever it may be. Is there certain things you want to implement that you wanted to change to make you know the experience better, I guess? And you kind of covered a little bit, but is there any certain things that really stick out to you that you were like, yeah, I'm got to make sure I change this particular thing because this is one of those things that um, either you felt you had complaints about with maybe riding with another org or things you saw a little bit wrong, or not wrong, but were not particularly focused on correctly and different org or anything like that?
So a change might not be the correct word, right? Because a lot of that, what you're talking about, and the simple answer is yes. A lot of that was implemented in the initial iteration of Fast Tracks that first year, and that was all based on my experience as a consumer of track days, my experience as a coach, and certainly as far as instruction is concerned, my history of instruction, technical instruction in the past. So specifically, probably one of the very first things was the strict limitation on the number of people that are going to be on track at any given time, right? Everybody knows, without naming names, right? Everybody knows the track day organizations that they don't stop selling slots. They just don't. And all of a sudden, your nose to tail, it doesn't matter where you are. It's just a train all the way around. If you actually manage to get past somebody, it's only to be stuck on the rear tire of somebody else. So the whole thing turns into, if you'll excuse the phrase, a four-word letter word that begins with a cluster. So that was a big thing for me right from the beginning. The 20-minute session, 3 20-minute sessions an hour, that is for me. I have tried 30-minute sessions. I've tried 15-minute. It just doesn't work as well, either from the coaching standpoint, and especially from the client standpoint. 20 minutes is a pretty nice sweet spot. If I'm a consumer of track days, 20 on and 40 off, 7 times during the day, that's about as good as it's going to get, right? Uh, let's see what else. The syllabus, the novice syllabus, our novice class, I believe, is heavily structured, but right on the edge of being overly structured. But that is by design. That is by design to help people. I remember my first track day, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, the world comes at you fast, doesn't it? Right? I mean, it
Yeah,
just
mine was my first track day. There was zero structure, and I at the end of the day, I was like, I don't know if this is for me.
right,
So
right.
yeah,
So the reason that novice syllabus is structured the way it is to try and protect people until they can settle it down and get into the pace and the groove and understand what goes on at the not just our track but at any track, right? And that's also why it it's very, very, you work in novice. It's very, very structured in the beginning, but it opens up very quickly, very quickly. So, yeah, pretty much everything that is implemented that we do is based on my experience as both a consumer and then as a coach and then as an instructor.
And this kind of tags along with that last question a little bit. What do you see that, or you feel that Fast Tracks does exceptionally well compared to? I mean, we don't have to name any organizations, but like compared to other organizations, what do you think that Fast Tracks does? You know, at just a higher level or different that makes people come back, and along with that, what type of feedback? Because we know you get feedback. You tell me here and there, or other coaches. What type of feedback do you get from people, positive and negative?
So it has been my goal from the beginning, and I think we achieved that goal exceptionally well given our resources. The focus of Fast Tracks is on our clientele, to help our clientele regardless of what level they ride at. As I like to say, it actually says it on the website, to have the best time possible while wearing leather, which is it's a pretty tall order, right? I, I think we are more it's a service industry. I see it as a service industry, and I think we do a better job of specifically serving our clientele than most track day organizations. And I'm not going to take anything away from any existing track day organization. Any number of them run very admirable programs, and I would go ride with them any day of the week and have myself a great time. Most of them. Every organization has a personality, if you will, right? Uh, I I would like to think that Fast Tracks strikes the best possible balance, right? There's always limitations. I don't care what your resources are. There's still going to be limitations. There's only so many hours in a track day. You can only get so many bikes on the track at once. You can't. Individuals may want to go out there and run their very own personal run, but you can't do it. My response to those guys is go rent the track, right? Cheap tracks start at about 12 grand a day and it goes up from there. That's not quite the price point you want to pay. So I think we strike the best possible balance across the skill level of riders to give everyone the opportunity to have just as much fun as you can have. That's, I think, where Fast Tracks really shines.
And like I said there, what's some of the feedback that you've gotten over the years now? Positive and negative. Um, Hopefully, we don't have a lot of negative, but
I don't get a lot of negative feedback. I don't get very much negative feedback at all. And quite honestly, the few times that I've gotten negative feedback and the individual wasn't so hot under the collar that they just stormed off, which does happen, and it's going to happen. There's not much you can do about it. But where the individual has uh, been in control of themselves enough to stick around and talk to me, it's almost always a misperception. Um, if you're someone without a great deal of track experience, maybe somebody who has some races under their belt, or even maybe it's just track days, but a fair number of track days running an intermediate or advanced, and you get buzzed hard by somebody, it can seem like the situation was unsafe and out of control, when in fact it really wasn't, and it's just a matter of comment. Somebody rattled your cage, right? And that's, you and I both know the big difference. What's the biggest difference between a brand new rider and someone riding in advance for the hundredth time is you show me your wheel, you push your wheel up underneath me going into a turn. Okay. It's
right.
somebody's wheel. It means nothing to me. It literally means nothing to me, right? You make it work or you don't, because I'm going. And I don't stand up the bike. I don't jerk. I don't back out of the throttle. I just go. But if you're somebody new, so that's primarily the negative stuff. That guy buzzed me, blah, blah, blah. The positive feedback I get is it's just great. And it's always about the quality of the coaching staff. I mean, we have, I'll put our coaching staff up against anybody at any track day organization. The people that are wearing jerseys at fast tracks that are on staff to an individual are focused on the clientele and are going out of their way to try and help people have that good time. So there's where the positive comes in. And I invite anybody, if you've never ridden with fast tracks before, come on out and see what it is. And we these people riding around in jerseys, these people teaching in novice class or coaching an intermediate rider, even just for a couple of laps. These people are doing they're doing yeoman's work. It is pretty remarkable how good of a crew we have. Very, very fortunate to have these folks on staff, every one of them.
And so that could lead me into another question of like, what do you look for when you're staffing? I mean, what do you look for when you're looking at a potential coach to come on board, or the coach that you have came on board? I know a lot of them, probably 50% maybe, came from lean. They were established from
Yes.
there, and
Yep.
you already knew how they handle themselves and how they coach and everything. But when you're bringing new people on, what do you look for?
That's a great question. So if someone approaches me with a question about whether or not there's a coaching slot available for them with fast tracks, I always tell them that there's three primary things that you need to have. You need to have a great depth of knowledge. Okay, you need understanding what to do is okay. Much more, just as important is you need to understand why we're doing it, right? Because when we instruct people at any level, regardless, and actually it's even more important to understand why if you're talking to someone who's running an advanced and you're trying to push them to a speed that's even beyond what you can ride, right? Understanding why is super important. If we can communicate that to someone, then they can make their own decisions as they move forward to other tracks, to other situations, right? So, great depth of knowledge. The second thing every coach is going to need is really good communication skills. If I tell you something and you don't get it, and I tell you again and you still don't get it, guess what? The problem's not you, right? The problem is me. I'm not using the right language. I need to rethink this whole thing. So my communication skills need to be at the next level. And the third thing that you need in order to coach is a metric ton of patience, right? You can't let yourself get frustrated. You can't take it personally, right? You have to be professional about this. And then I usually don't disclose it until it's way too late for the poor SOB who ends up on staff, but you better be ready to work because it's work. You know that's true.
Absolutely. It's definitely a lot of work, but enjoyable, fulfilling, and I mean that's why I still do it. I drive 3 hours one way to come up there and do what we do. So
And we appreciate you.
yeah,
I mean,
oh
on a
yeah, I know
personal
that.
level, you want a few nice pats on the back. I get fantastic feedback about the way you coach. So
Oh, I appreciate that.
kudos to you and thanks to you. I should be more to all the coaches. If you're watching this, I should be more diligent about passing positive feedback on. I really should.
I think you do a decent job. I mean,
Okay,
you've
thanks.
told me and you've
Thanks.
told other people, the positive feedback we get, especially the stuff that really stands out.
Right.
So, I think that you're doing a good job. You got a lot of other stuff to worry about as well during those weekends. So,
That's true. That's true. That's
um,
fair. That's fair.
what do you think would be for people, especially novice coming in, and not just novice, but I would think it probably is more novice driven, I guess. What is the ideal mindset that you want to see for people coming in, like especially novice, doing their first track day or whatever it is, trying to learn? What is the mindset that you like to see that just the ideal person, mindset and personality, or not even personality, but like, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and you're correct. Personality has nothing to do with it. You don't have to like me. You don't have to be my friend. It really doesn't matter to me. You don't even have to respect me. I quite honestly don't care. But you got to listen. So the hardest, the best mindset for someone when they come out to the track is that open mindset. Most people don't come to the track unless they think they're fast, and they may be under certain circumstances in certain environments. But until you've ridden on a closed course, the odds that your preconceived notion of what it's going to be like is correct, it's not zero, but it's damn close, right? The odds that it's going to be what you thought it was going to be is not very high. So be willing to accept that the reality isn't what your expectation was, and then adapt your expectation to meet the reality. So that open mind, when we start that whole novice program, that whole first session about what's important, the most important things that you can do when you're on the track, you can look out on the people that you're talking to, and you can see right away that a whole bunch of them they're not even hearing it. They just don't hear it. Let me, just let me go on the track. I know what to do. I know how to be fast. And it takes a minute for most folks. Some of them come to it pretty quick. I've had some older riders, and not to diss the younger guys, but I've had some older riders come out and say, I got a lot of experience on a motorcycle, but I've never been on a track before, so my expectation is zero. That's the person who's easy to teach,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's the person
open-minded.
that's easy to teach. Yep. So that's the biggie. That's what I would tell people that are coming to the track for the first time. Don't expect it to be what you expect. Keep an open mind and adapt your expectation to what it is. It's going to get them further faster, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, is there any changes, or I mean, I know you said it's an ever evolving syllabus and stuff, but as far as, I guess, not really structural changes, but any like little things that you'd want to implement in the future to, kind of broaden things at our coaching, the way we coach, or just anything like that with our organization that you'd like to implement, or
There's a bunch of stuff that I would love to implement, Ryan, but our biggest issue is a function of resources. What do we have in the way of staff? What do we have in the way of money? What do we have in the way of time? I mean, there's some great track day, or you can go to Champ School, you can go to CSS, right? And you can pay those people $3,000 for 2 days, and that's on your motorcycle, right? Now get one of theirs. And they say, oh yeah, we got this great instructor to client ratio, which quite honestly is not that much better than ours. I think they do 3-to-1, right?
yeah,
And we never go beyond 4-to-1. That's another. You asked earlier what my where my lines in the sand are, my hard lines, and 4-to-1 is my hard line for ratio. I'd love to have cameras, right? Cameras would be great. I mean, comm systems. Can you imagine how cool that would be?
yeah. Chris Bogert was actually talking about that the other day, like just
But
for
how,
just for coaches and novice to say, hey, we're coming up behind you
right,
or whatever.
coach to coach,
Yep.
right, right. Um, and full well, and I mean, you've done it with clients that you've been working with. You slap a camera on the front of the bike and you follow them around, right? Or vice versa, put one on the rear and say, why are why am I looking at the side of your motorcycle,
Yeah.
right? If if I'm towing you around, all I should ever see is the front of your motorcycle, right? You're clearly not putting your wheels where they belong. So all that kind of stuff would be great. I'd love to have a classroom that was quiet and had, you know, AV equipment in it, right? Instead of trying to scream over the bikes going down the front straightaway. But it's the reality of the situation. At the price point, you know, you said, earlier you asked what's one of the main values of Fast Tracks. And I will offer you this, and I'll hold this up to anyone, anywhere in the country. At the price point that we function, our program is premier. Absolutely. There is nobody offering what we offer at the price point that we have. Can you get something, you know, at the same functionality? Sure, you can, but it's going to cost you literally 10 times as much, right? So come and run with us for 10 days, save your money. And then, you know, so what's more valuable? I'm going to ask you as a rider and a coach, what's more valuable? A few more bells and whistles or 10 times as much wheels rolling time?
Yeah, wheels rolling time for sure.
There
Yeah.
you go. Every time.
Uh,
So yeah, I would love to have a lot of things. I'd love to change a lot of things, but we have to deal with the reality of where we are, who we are, what we do. Fast Tracks is at one track as of right now. I don't know that there's any discussion of moving it out to other tracks now that our friends over at, you know, the Stout family is no longer operating a racetrack. The opportunities for Fast Tracks to expand into other venues just got even more limited than it already was. And again, that's up to the people. A lot of people don't. I get this all the time, right? A lot of people don't know I don't own Fast Tracks.
right.
Okay, I am a hired contractor who comes in and runs the day-to-day operations. Were we to even consider moving Fast Tracks outside of Nelson's Ledges, the first thing I have to do is go to the owners of Fast Tracks and say, hey, we want to take the show on the road. Is that okay with you? And then there would be some negotiations there, I'm sure, right? You know, it becomes a totally different animal.
Um,
Just, go
the
ahead.
one thing I will say is you know, I kind of discussed this when I had the interview with Matt Comrie. Um, you're pretty open to when, you know, coaches do have suggestion or idea. You know, in particular, the one that me and Matt talked about that he kind of brought it up, and I kind of touched on it that you know, with our novice group when we had group one, which is always our fastest group of novice when we break them down, and we may swap places with people just depending, but when I had people that had, you know, 2-3 times in novice, I said, hey, can I went and asked you before, you know, taking any action, but like, you know, these guys have done this, went through the syllabus quite a few times. Can I take them aside and you know, work with them on some other things or maybe questions they have in feedback? And you were like, hey, whatever you think is needed, go ahead and do it. And the fact that you know, you put a lot of trust and I'm lost for words at the moment, but like, yeah, just the trust that we know what we're doing and that we you know, can make those good decisions, and it means a lot, you know, that we can do that. Some things we can't do because of, you know, obviously staffing and things like that, but you're pretty open minded with that stuff. I think that's a pretty good benefit for us. That, you know, if there are things that we think we could tweak or make a little bit better, you're always open for that. I mean, Tim's thing with, you know, changing the point of the leapfrog, for example. Yeah, it's always good, and I think it's a pretty good benefit for not only
Well,
the customers but, you know, for the coaches too. So
I agree. B, thank you so very much. C, the job of management in any organization is to generate the environment in which the people who are doing the work, and that's the coaches, can do their absolute and very best. Right? A lot of my job is removing the roadblocks for you guys to do what you need to do. So to the end, as far as trusting you guys to do the coach, the rest of the coaching staff, because I consider myself part of the coaching staff, but trusting the rest of the coaching staff to make their own decisions. Why, if you're on the coaching staff, why wouldn't I let you coach, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Right? It's called delegation, right? Your job is you've agreed as a volunteer, to go out and coach these people and help these people. Why would I get in the way? If I see something egregious, I'm going to say something. I'm not exactly a shy person, right?
No, not at all.
No, not exactly. But if I didn't have the faith that you were going to be doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason, you wouldn't be on a coaching staff. It's pretty simple. So A, thank you for that. But B, I highly recommend to folks as they move through life to not expect anything less, right? I mean, I understand economics necessity, but if the person who is managing your operation is trying to micromanage you, find another boss or find another job. That's my best advice, because it isn't helping the operation at all. My focus is on the operation, on the people who come to the operation. So I'm going to let the rest of the coaching staff do what they do well, and they do it well.
Yeah, it's still, you know, a change in operation, even at its just basic thing, you could say, no, we'll leave it how it is because it could cause you issues, right? I mean, if there's a change in operation or whatever, but the fact that you trust that we would make the right decisions for that change, and you go, hey, let's try it out.
Sure.
I think that's great, and we all appreciate that.
And I thank you guys for bringing that stuff up. I mean, at a certain point, you don't want to live in that echo chamber, right? You
Right.
can't function in a vacuum. I'm just like you guys. I'm just like anybody else on the coaching staff. I need feedback. I need input to see what works and what doesn't, right? And we're all learning, and part of learning is having the freedom within limitations to make mistakes, right?
Yep.
If the mistake is fatal, you don't learn anything,
Right.
right? But as long as it's not harmful, let's give it a try. Let's see, what's the worst that can happen? We say, boy, let's never do that again, right?
Right.
I guess I'm never putting vodka in my peanut butter again, right? So it seemed like a good idea at the time. What the heck? Give it a try. What could get hurt, right?
Yep.
What can be hurt? And because the staff, the rest of the coaching staff is so good at what they do and so dedicated to what they do, quite honestly, I just don't worry about it that much, right? I don't feel like I have to watch the rest of the coaching staff like a hawk. They'll watch themselves,
Right.
right? If it's if there's any doubt in your mind, don't do it. Right?
Yep.
It's easy, right? It's easy. So anyway, thanks for that, but thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for it enhances the operation when coaches have the freedom to work with the clients to speak to what I said before. You're speaking the wrong language. Coaches have got to have the ability to speak the language that talks to the client, right?
Yep.
And so this is not rigid. It's not written in stone. It is a movable, living, flexible beast that adapts to the clientele as needed, and that's what our coaches are particularly good at.
Let you kind of. This is kind of getting off of like the coaches and whatnot topic a little bit, but I guess one of the things that doesn't get, I guess, touched upon a lot would be, how important our corner workers and stuff are, and
Oh my God.
things like that. I mean, can you touch a little bit on the value of our corner workers and just the guys around the track to keep the track going?
So the guys, Patrick and Igor and all the guys working corners, right down to the folks who are running medical. I don't know if you knew it or not, but that's an in-house medical crew. That is not a hired. That's not a crew for hire.
Did not know that.
That is an in-house medical crew. Those people are amazingly adaptable and amazingly focused on motorcycling when we are there. And quite honestly, I don't know if you know this or not, but they love us. They love motorcyclists. They think we're great. They clearly understand the difference between a race and a track day. They flag differently for track days than they do for races. Certainly when I was helping run the races with Lean, our criteria for example, red flags was very different. If you recall, we were doing hot pulls, right? Anybody who's raced knows what a pain in the butt a red flag is. It messes up everything, right? You want
Yeah.
to avoid it at all costs. But those guys go the extra mile when we are there to make sure the track is prepped for us, that the facilities are ready to roll. And you see me talking on the radio, they adapt to what it is that we need very willingly, very quickly. Everybody has glitches, right? Occasionally a corner worker will have a glitch, but, who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? But I can't say enough about those guys and the quality of the work that they do and their commitment to trying to put this show on in the safest possible way, right? Anybody who comes out to the track to ride or drive a car or ride a motorcycle has got to have a screw loose, right? You got to have a screw loose just to get on a motorcycle. If you stopped and really, really thought about it, you say, what are what? What? But we can mitigate the danger, right? We can try and maximize safety without cutting into our ability to have fun. And I think the crew does a great job of supporting that goal. I really do, and I appreciate what they do.
Yeah, me too. They're always pretty chipper too, and just
Oh
always
yeah,
want to talk and BS. And yeah, great staff there. Um, we can kind of go on to a little bit on your administration side as far as um, what is one of the things that if you could like to broadcast to people during for registering online or anything like that, that you could give them some advice or some direction, things like that.
one thing you want the major thing. I bet you've heard this before. So if you go to the fasttracksmp.com website, at the top of every web page, there's a series of tabs that you can click on. Like click on the events tab. There's a create an account tab, and then there's one tab up there that says required reading. That's not a joke, okay? We're not fooling. Please, it doesn't take 10 minutes. Click on that tab, and underneath it is maybe a half a dozen documents. Click on each one of them and read it. I think it's going to answer about 99.9% of all your questions, right? And it's going to keep you from getting surprised when you show up at the track. So that's the one thing for me. That tab used to be called something like general information or something like that, and I changed it to required reading. It didn't help. It didn't help. Not one bit. Not one bit. So anyway, there you go. You asked. That's the answer.
One of the things that I know you do hit on quite a bit is when people register and they go, I can only register as novice, and then they're registered as novice. And can you kind of explain that stuff?
Sure. Sure. And again, if you go back to required reading, what I'm about to say is all written down in some documentation. So here's what it boils down to. If we let people self assign themselves to groups, novice, intermediate, or advanced, a whole bunch of people that have never been on the track before are going to stick themselves in an intermediate, and some of them are going to try and stick themselves in advanced. This goes back to what we talked about before. The environment is not going to be what they anticipate. Are they skilled riders? Sure they are. Are they fast riders? Sure they are. Are they going to function in the advanced class in a closed circuit environment? Not a chance, right? So the system is specifically set up so that if it does not recognize who you are, it's going to stick you in novice, period. And in fact, I can't think of a single incident where we have had someone come out with zero closed course experience and said, fine, you can skip novice. It's not going to happen. You've heard me give that first session speech during novice. We call it novice, but it's a bad name. If you don't know how to ride a motorcycle, you're in the wrong place. We expect you to be a competent rider. You're just novice, new to the track environment. The other thing to consider when you're registering is registering for the novice class. We restrict the number of riders by class, right? Not by total. We don't sell 80 riders and then say, well, if all 80 of them are in advanced, so be it. It doesn't work that way. We restrict by class. So if the system restricts you to novice and you don't understand how to get out of that position, and you go ahead and buy the novice day and then show up at the registration desk and show me your white plate wearer license, what you've done is failed to block a spot in advanced. If advanced is sold out, sorry, I got nothing for you, because again, we're strict about numbers. And B, if someone was trying to get into novice, you just locked them out. So it doesn't work. Up at the top of the page, along that, right next to the one that says required reading, is the rider class request form. If you're new to the website, and it will stick you in novice. Again, it tells you that in required reading. If you don't like it, click the rider class request form. Fill it out. Give us your resume. Let us know where you've ridden, with what group, etc., etc. And based on that and the class that you'd like to ride in, we'll assign you to the appropriate class and open up that access for you in the registration. Please do this before the track day. Typically, we get back to you within 24 hours.
Yeah, that's have that. I don't know. It's not like extremely common, but it does happen, especially like on the Fridays before Weira. There's always that. Let's see here. What else? Are recently in the past 2 years you got hooked up with Mythos. Do you want to speak on Mythos a little bit?
Sure. I myself purchased a set of Mythos leathers. No, I did not get any better discount than any other coach. Yes, coaches get a better discount than clients, but clients still get a pretty sweet discount. We love all our vendors. We've got a really good crew of vendors, and Mythos is included in that. Patrick and his crew do a very nice job of building extremely high quality bespoke leathers. They're not cheap. If it's your first track day, I highly recommend, unless you want to wear leathers out on the road, which I wouldn't. Anyway, if you're dedicated track riding or racing, I don't think you can beat that quality at the price point. You can match the quality, of course you can, but I don't think you can beat the price point. So by all means, across the bottom of our website, there's a scrolling banner of all our vendors. You've already had an interview with Quentin from Mize Mobile. His banner is down there. Who else do we have down there? Turn 13 photo. John, you should do an interview with John. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I was setting it up with him. It's I gotta get a hold of him. He had some stuff going on till.
Oh, he's got a lot of stuff.
But yeah, we get.
He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but I will be doing one with him here at some point. So.
Yep. Jody and the Pit Stop Grill.
Yeah, I really want to do one with her, but it probably I don't really have her contact, so it might not be till we get back to the track.
Start of the season.
Yeah, but if I can get a hold of her, I might try to do one with her.
There you go. Get hold of Patrick from the track. But yeah, Mythos. I'm glad you mentioned those folks because they are good people. I couldn't be happier with my leathers. Best fitting suit, most highest degree of freedom of motion because it's custom built. First custom at my age, after all these years, first custom suit I've ever had. Right. But yes, by all means, give Pat a call. Click on the link at the bottom of the website and see if their product is right for you. I'll give you the caveat. I was just talking to the folks over at Araya America and ordering a new helmet, and I get a discount on helmets because I'm also a instructor for the state of Ohio for novice riders. And I was speaking with the guy, and he says, we love the idea that you can introduce Arai helmets to these novice riders. And I started laughing. He said, well, what's so funny? And I said, almost every class, somebody asked, what's the best helmet? And I say, the best helmet is the one that you'll wear all the time. And buy the best quality helmet you can. And there's good quality helmets out there,
Yep.
And the guy from Arai said, well, great. You tell them to go buy Arai. I said, I kind of do, but not really. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because they asked me how much I have invested in my helmet. And when I tell them it's over $1,000, they back up real fast.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the Mythos leathers. It's going to cost a penny if you're a dedicated rider, at least to me. We're back to that safety thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have one head, one brain,
Right?
it's gear is very important. I learned that early. I'm a little bit of a gear snob, but still, it's like the first thing is it comfortable, and is it quality? Or quality, comfortable, whatever. Those are the two
There
things.
you go.
It's
Right.
there's several really quality leathers and helmets
Yes.
and gloves, but if it doesn't fit right, then you can wear the Instagram whatever AGV helmet, but if it hurts you to wear or the vision's not correct, then what good is it? Just because you like the
I
way it
agree.
looks, it doesn't. It's got to function correctly, and you'll find that out really easy riding the track.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And he said it doesn't. You don't like the way it looks, and that to me, I mean, since I first began riding, it's real simple. Motorcycles all look the same to me once I'm in the saddle. Right?
True.
It looks like the road coming at me. So, if I'm going to custom order leathers or buy a helmet with fancy graphics, am I going to buy something that I think look cool? Of course I will, because the price is the same. But when it's all said and done, it really doesn't matter. In that oh no second when I'm not attached to the machine anymore, I want to have absolute confidence that I've got the best gear on. The best gear on.
Agreed.
Crashing sucks, right? I don't know anybody who's ever crashed and enjoyed it. And my goal is to be able to stand up, put my thumbs over my head, run to the wall, right? And I can cry all I want to and curse myself all I want to, but you know what? I'm up and moving. That's fine. The rest is just time and money. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. I'll get over it.
Agreed. Is there any topic that we haven't covered that you'd like to speak on? Anything in particular? Or?
To our existing clients, I want to say thank you so very much for working with us to make Fast Tracks just what it is, which is a unique place to come, a unique riding community. As I said about the coaches, I'll put our riding community I'll stack them up against anybody, any of the national organizations, anywhere. You cannot, you cannot beat the level of support that you get, not just from our coaches who lead by example, right? But from a lot of our clientele who help each other out to have that best possible day. If you haven't been to Fast Tracks, if you are a existing Fast Tracks rider, or if you've never been on the track before, come on out and see what you're missing. I can never understand, Ryan, I can never understand why people go out and spend all this money on these spectacular sport bikes, and they are spectacular. They are so good these days, it's insane, right? Compared to what I was riding in the 1970s, right? It's insane. Why are you buying that machine and not at least dip your toe in the water and see what that thing is capable of? Because if you're doing it on the street, you're not getting anywhere near that limit. Nowhere near, right?
Agreed.
Bring it on out. It doesn't cost as much as you thought it did. If it's not for you, that's cool, but at least give it a try. And if you want to come out and just see what we do, you know what? We don't charge a spectator fee. I know there's a sign up there. Do they ever actually charge anybody?
As far as I know, I think only for like the Wira weekends, but I
Well,
think normal track
that's
days.
where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just come on out and see, talk to the coaches, talk to me, talk to the clientele, see what everybody's doing. If you don't want to just dive in, right? Take a Saturday, take a Sunday, come on out.
Agreed.
Uh, we're pretty nice people, right? We're pretty nice people, and we're having a heck of a lot of fun. Maybe you'd like to get a taste. Come on out, right?
It's I always tell people if you come out do the first one. The only thing I can say is you might want to have to get a second job after that because you're gonna like it so much.
Right, right. Kiss your wallet goodbye.
Yeah,
That's what I tell them. You know, welcome to the track. Kiss your wallet goodbye. And oh, by the way, that bike, your street bike that you rode here, yeah,
yeah. It's gonna be a
yeah.
track only bike here in a.
Or the other way around is it's a nice street bike. Keep it.
Yeah.
Now go get a track bike, right?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, yeah. If there's nothing else you want to touch on, I think
All good.
most of my questions have been answered. Appreciate you sitting down, taking the time to answer questions and do this for do it for me, but and the bigger picture, do it for the customers, our current customers or potential customers, to get a little feel for the organization and yourself. And I mean, that's the whole idea. I say this every time I do one of these interviews, but that's the whole idea behind this thing is, to kind of get people introduced to the crew, kind of see what we're about and where our mindset's at. And, just that we're there for them and we want to make their experience good. And, just get everybody to kind of get a good feel of things before maybe if they're on the fence, this might, push them over to come do something with Fast Tracks and hang out and see what we're about. So,
Well, that would be great. I'm more than happy to have done this, and I applaud you for taking this on yourself. You know, this was for those of you who don't know. Ryan is a Fast Tracks coach, and Ryan thought all of this up on his lonesome. I don't know, maybe kept him awake or at night or something. I don't know. I really appreciate you doing it, and you are correct. You know, maybe help everybody understand what the ethos of Fast Tracks is. You know, what our culture is, which I think is unique in the industry. I really do, and give them some impetus to come on out and join us. I don't. If riding on a closed course is something that you enjoy or might enjoy, come on out and run with Fast Tracks. Right down to the royalty that we had. What was it on the Friday before last Wero weekend? Those guys had a great time too, right?
yep,
So if those guys can be having fun with us, and brand new novice riders, I know you and a bunch of other coaches worked really hard that last day with a whole bunch of people that are right on the edge of getting out of novice, and you help them take that next step into intermediate. All good on you guys. Thank you so much. If we can make people happy on those two extreme edges of the spectrum, we can probably find a place for you if you're thinking about it. So come on out, come and take a look at it and see what we got.
agreed. Well, again, thank you for doing this, and we'll wrap this up here. Thanks to everybody who watches, and we'll have this up. I'm not sure. Probably put this up a little bit earlier than some other ones are, but thanks again, and we will see everybody later.
Adios.